In this video lecture, we're going to talk about the types of agriculture, and we'll discuss environmental problems associated with agriculture. Let's begin. Feeding the nearly 8 billion people here on Earth puts quite a strain on the environment. The way that we grow the food that we use to feed that population is different ways to do it. The first one here that we'll talk about is industrialized agriculture. This is a series of methods that started to be developed in the 1950s and beyond that uses a lot of heavy equipment that burn quite a bit of fossil fuels. We might need to divert water from waterways to irrigate land. Farmers might even use inorganic chemical fertilizers and pesticides to farm high-yielding monocultures, just one type of crop on the land. Another type of agriculture is plantation agriculture. This is for some different types of crops like coffee, sugarcane, cocoa, bananas. I'm thinking of the farms that grow the pineapples in Hawaii, and usually the land that's used for plantation agriculture comes from clear-cut tropical rainforests that can support those types of crops. Another type of agriculture is subsistence farming. You're going to find this in developing countries, right? This is the practice of farming to provide enough food for yourself and your family, and maybe some extra to sell or trade in the marketplace. This type of agriculture is going to use humans, draft animals to do a lot of the backbreaking work. Pretty difficult way to survive, I think. But a way for many people in our world. Another type of agriculture is called slash and burn agriculture. We've talked before about the soil fertility of the soil in a rainforest, and it's usually pretty poor. And the reason why is because even though a rainforest is very highly biodiverse, all of those nutrients in the soil are readily taken up by all of those plants in the area. And so as a result, the soil is not very fertile. So how can you make it more fertile? If you kill everything and burn it. That burning, if you recall, that our book says the liberation of the nutrients as those plants burn are going to mix back into the soil, make it fertile again. So this is the practice of cutting down and burning tropical forests to clear the land and prepare it for crops and for raising livestock. So what they do then, after a couple years of using that soil and just using it to just can't support any more growth, what they do is they allow it to regrow, they slash and burn again, and recycle those nutrients back in. Traditional agriculture from the previous slide and plantation agriculture both rely on slash and burn methods for clearing land. Here's a nice little infographic here, picture maybe we can call this. If you don't have this in your notes, make sure you have it. So if you start out here with an intact rainforest, kill everything, burn it, you get fertile soil, farm it all the way down to there's nothing left, right? You get infertile soil again, let the land regrow, you got an intact forest, slash and burn, it just keeps going, right? All right, let's talk about some of these environmental problems associated with agriculture. I know that there are so many different FRQs on agriculture and so many FRQs for me to choose from too for our exam on this. And but I'll tell you right now, the next couple slides, these are really awesome problems and some solutions for agriculture. So I'm going to stop talking. We're just going to get into this. All right, so let's talk about soil erosion. This is what happens. So you know what plowing is in the field? Plowing and tilling the land is when a farmer, let's say to control weed growth, sends a plow right down a field and turns the topsoil over on itself and essentially kills the weeds. And that's how they prepare the soil for later growth. The problem, though, is that plowing and tilling exposes that soil to the elements, to the winds and the water, and it's more susceptible then to being washed away and eroded, right? It's a problem. Soil, why is it a problem? Well, soil is considered renewable, sure, but making new soil is a natural process and it takes very, very long time. So conserving our soil is a good thing. The available soil is a good thing. Let's talk about some strategies then that farmers might want to use to reduce soil erosion. The first one is no-till agriculture. Think about it, right? If we don't plow it or till the land, then you don't have that problem of having the soil become eroded by the wind and the water. Right? This is farming without plowing the land. The problem, though, is that since we're not plowing the land to control the weeds, we now have to, or the farmers have to apply their herbicides to control the weed growth. And the problem with that is that it's chemicals and runoff can get into waterways. That's not good. So what's another way? Terracing. You see a picture of terracing here. Notice how we can farm on hills. This might happen in some Asian areas, Asian countries rather. And so what they do to plant rice, for example. So what they do is they convert a hilly slope to flat terraces that are completely level across. Why would they want to do this? Well, because the water then won't rush down the hills. Gravity's going to pull it down and erode some soil. Rather, it will just sink into these terraces because, again, it's level with the ground. Another way to do this is contour plowing. So you're going to plow with the contours of the shapes of the land. So what does this say? So going up and down. This prevents the water also from gaining downhill momentum, and fast-moving water means more soil erosion. Windbreak is a way to mitigate soil erosion, and you see a picture of this right over here. Here's the crop, and then the crop is being protected by the wind with these very large trees and bushes. And that's what a windbreak is. It's a row of trees or shrubs planted next to or around the fields to slow down the winds that could potentially blow the topsoil away. Another environmental problem associated with agriculture is deforestation. This is when we remove trees to clear land for agriculture. Slash and burn could be one of these ways that we clear the land. The problem with this is that one of the problems is that when we remove the trees, we're reducing the amount of shade that the trees provide, which increases the evaporation of the water out of the soil, dries it out, makes it more like a desert. What else does deforestation do? Those roots really are acting as anchors to hold that topsoil in place. And so when you remove those anchors, you remove soil's ability to stay put, I suppose, and increases soil erosion as a result. What else? Deforestation is horrible because trees are really awesome carbon sinks, right? They hold on, they take in carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis and they store it in their trunks, keep it out of the air. So when we get rid of the trees, we increase or at least don't allow any new carbon dioxide to enter into to be taken out of the atmosphere. What's another environmental problem associated with agriculture? Desertification. This is the transformation of land that was once suitable for agriculture into desert. We can even lose the bodies of water in the area as well as the vegetation and wildlife. This can happen when an area is clear cut. Again, we take away the shade that the trees provide and more water evaporates out of the soil. And that doesn't support life. Overgrazing is another major cause of desertification worldwide, right? Urbanization, taking away the natural vegetation in an area and putting asphalt in essentially, right? Climate change, overdrafting of groundwater, all of these are ways to dry out a land. What's another environmental problem associated with agriculture? So I think your guys' note packet might be a little wrong here, so I want you to make some corrections. The soil salinization is referring to the buildup of salt in the soil. And this can become so salty, the soil can become so salty that it becomes toxic to plants. How does this happen? Well, it happens when crops are overly irrigated. This is the part where I want you to change your notes packet. The water dissolves salts in the B horizon. So let's say that we've got, well, I'll show you in the next slide. You've got water, you put too much water in an area and it's going to soak down deep down into the soil, and as it evaporates, it pulls the salts back up. And here's what that would look like, right? If just light rain, light evaporation, the water doesn't penetrate too far down. If we've got moderate rain, light irrigation and evaporation. We might have some percolation and infiltration of the water into this area here, right? Into the A horizon. But look down below here. This B horizon might be where we have more accumulation of different metals and salts. And so if we are heavily irrigating or there's lots of rain in an area, there's going to be a lot more infiltration of the water all the way down, even such that we can dissolve some of those salts potentially. As the water evaporates, it brings the salts up to the surface. Again, salt and life, those don't really go hand in hand usually. Here's another environmental problem associated with agriculture. Fertilizer runoff. We talked about this in the very beginning of the school year, right? What's the problem with this is eutrophication in the process of putting phosphorus and nitrogen, which these fertilizers are very high in, into a body of water. And what happens is those limiting nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, are readily used up by algae in the area. Those algal blooms start to pop up. They die. They start to decompose. Those decomposers really starve that water of its oxygen, right, to create this hypoxic environment, low dissolved oxygen in the area. And hey, life doesn't really like salt, and life likes oxygen too, usually, right? And so if we remove all the oxygen or a lot of it from a waterway, we're going to not be able to support the life that would make it a healthy waterway, I suppose. The last environmental problem associated with agriculture is waterlogging. This is just when irrigation water accumulates so much it raises the water table to a level where it interferes with the growth of the crops by submerging the roots, right? Roots need oxygen in order to continue to live, and so if we fill up the area with water, then it becomes waterlogged and plants will die. All right, so that's that, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll do it again soon.